Hi, I'm Megan Tan. I make cinematic films on the internet, and I'm going to be breaking down some of my favorite shots for you today. So this shot was a part of a video that I did that I really wanted to bring goldfishes into, or koi fishes into. I really wanted to make a video about just filming cinematic films at home with not a big budget. And I had this idea of opening a washing machine door and that the goldfishes or the koi fishes would come out into my kitchen and kind of like live in my home. I asked my friend Kenji Lambert, an animator and VFX animator, to help me animate these fishes. And all I had to do was basically film this accordingly with the right lighting and with like the right angles. So I shot this whole thing on a Sony a7 III, which is also still the camera that I am using today. But at this point in time, I was using a kit lens. I really wanted to have a big contrast in colors in lighting. So that's why I made this here blue. And then I contrasted it with more of like an orangey, warm tone. This also definitely helped me motivate the fishies. And this helped me motivate the color of the sea or ocean. I used a June light here. I think it's called the F100. It's like an LED RGB light. And I turned that blue, and here I turned it just like a little bit warmer. I used the same light here as well. And for inside, I also used a really cheap $30 newer LED light. I put it in my washing machine so that I had this motivation light of where the fishes would be coming from, because I wanted the fishes to be glowing and I wanted them to have a little bit of color. And here I have another light, a MX100 June light. I think that is what it's called. It's basically like a bicolor light, and I used it to shine on a warming blanket, like a heat blanket that you would get in your first aid kit. You could get this like for $5 on Amazon. So I reflected the light onto the blanket, and that created this water refraction effect. And if you see or watch the video, you definitely see it kind of looks like water. And because I was filming this alone, I had to like shake the blanket myself to make the water movement effect. And I think if you look closely enough, you can see that I am like actually moving the blanket back and forth. So regarding the height of the camera in comparison to me here, I really wanted to make myself look small and the fishes would look grander than people would think. And so I put my camera on like a higher tripod. I extended my legs basically 3 times. And so the camera was here. I definitely tried to keep the tripod as steady as possible and not to move it anywhere. First of all, I'm filming by myself anyways. I can't move the camera by myself. And secondly, it's also because the animator, Kenji, he had to basically mask me out. The raw file that I received from him was like this like mask around myself. The bubbles and like the fishes here, they were all like added afterwards. That was one of the most important details for me, is that I had to keep the camera as steady as possible and not move it back and forth. Okay, let's go to the next shot. So this piece is actually also one of my like how to make cinematic films at home YouTube pieces that I was really proud of, because I made this whole scene, I think, in a total of $8.50. Not including my camera and my equipment, of course, but basically. I saw a frame from this website, Frameset, and that's where I got my inspiration from. I think it was an ad for Virgil Abloh, and he was sitting in a plane, and it was like a cutout paper plane, and I really wanted to create something like that, or something in that direction. The paper, of course, was like 50 or 20 cents per piece. I got this light from Flying Tiger. I'm not sure if people know what Flying Tiger is, but it's like this like shop full of like just like junk and that you can buy for like under $10. So I got this like light, which is also in my video. It's just like this like standing table light. It was $8 and I saw it and I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a video with this. I'm gonna challenge myself to make something really inexpensive. So I got some paper, I got this light, and then I cut this paper out per hand, as you can see, like these like these super jagged edges because I can't cut for my life. And these windows here were also layered. So I cut out like extra pieces from the piece that I would cut out here. I would just cut them in half and like paste them behind the paper to make them look like half closed airplane windows. And for the lighting here on my face, it was mostly from this like $8 light and also sunlight. I put myself like next to my window in my apartment and I filmed myself against a white wall. And then I used the magic mask on DaVinci Resolve to like cut me out so that I could place this stock footage of me in an airplane. This is one photo. This is one photo of the airplane background, and this is one photo of the airplane background. So they were like the same photo, just like duplicated. To get these backgrounds in the windows, I put this piece of paper that I cut out on like a green folder because I didn't have like a green screen, and then I edited them out as if it were to be a green screen, and then I edited myself in. Then I added like the background. And also I added some stock footages, if you can't see, but these are like clouds. I found a stock video on Storyblocks and I basically blended that into my video using Add or Dissolve, I think. The camera I used was also the Sony a7 III. Like this is the only camera that I use and basically own. I picked up my first ever camera when I was 12. My dad, he used to be super into photography as well as my uncle, but my uncle, he's more of like a classic photographer. He does a lot of film photography and he still does. And I used to love going around taking photos with my dad and my uncle. I used to spend every Chinese New Year doing that. And I think that's where that passion bloomed for me. And ever since I was like 14 or 15, I got like this new Nikon 3300, and I think that was like one of the first cameras that allowed you to do like 1080p videos. And I was super excited about moving pictures, and I picked up the camera and I filmed like basically everything. I used to do triathlon as well. I would bring my camera to triathlon trainings and like film people when I did not feel like training. So I was super lazy at training, but I was really hardworking on like making these small videos of people training, and like, yeah, I just like loved throwing videos together. So yeah, let's move on to the next shot. In this lifetime, tell them the truth. I was feeling quite sad in this moment, and I normally use my films or like my videos on social media to express how I'm feeling. And I really like this piece because it was, I think, right after I got my very own C-stand with like an extension arm. And I was super excited to do a top shot. So this is the top shot I went for. I was really inspired by this from Euphoria. There is a scene of Zendaya lying on the floor when she was going through withdrawals, and there was like this really nice lighting coming from this window. I really, really wanted to recreate that in my own way and in my own home. What I did was I had an aperture light here. I think it was the 300X that I put in here. I live on the 3rd floor in my apartment, so I did not have like the opportunity to like put out a light to shine through a window or anything like that. So what I did to create these like light streaks here, I got this Amazon package and I cut out a cardboard in the shape of like window blinds. And then I shined my aperture through this piece of cardboard, which is here on the glass of my shower. And that's how I got this like light streaks to come out. I basically just put out a C-stand here. It was just a C-stand and my camera. It was actually a really simple shot, but I really liked how it turned out. And there is another frame of this video, but it was supposed to be at night. But it's basically the same lighting, but with different color grading. Same version of this, but just darker and a lot cooler, because it's supposed to be like day and night. It's supposed to show like how long I've been crying and sitting on this floor. but this aperture that was coming in was also supposed to act as a moonlight. So this is a moon. On DaVinci, I'm not really like a professional on color grading, but I do everything like from scratch. I don't really use any LUTs, or I don't have a LUT that I always use. And for this frame particularly, I was actually referring back to the frame from Euphoria. So I was trying to match that color grading. I do have like the basics of lighting down. I think like I know the basics of lighting. So when I look at a scene, for example, on Euphoria, I could tell like where they lit it from. I would normally try to break that down in my head before recreating. And when I'm recreating, I learn a lot from lighting by myself, because most of the time it doesn't go as planned, and then you have to see like how you could make it better. Because at first my idea was just that I would shine it through my shower glass just like that, without this like cutout cardboard that I did, and it just didn't go as planned. Like the lighting was just like everywhere. So there's like another window here on my shower. I had to block that out. That's how I learned a lot of my techniques on lighting and shooting, through watching films and like breaking down scenes in my head. Moving on to the next shot. This was around 5 months into me making YouTube videos, and I was a big fan of Blade Runner. I think a lot of cinematographers are quite familiar with this scene, but there is this scene where there's like this light shining down and the water reflection on the buildings just like everywhere, because on top of him is just like a big body of water. And I really wanted to recreate this as well. So I booked a hotel because I really wanted to have like a vast space, and I feel like I don't have that at home. And here I had a practical which was already from the hotel. It was like just this like reading lamp. There is a practical here as well, but it's just not to be seen in this scene, I think. And here is, again, we bring out the famous heat blanket, because you know it's $5. And I feel like you can do so much with the heat blanket because it has this beautiful reflection of light. So my friend Dilara, she helped me put up here 2 C-stands, and here we basically just like tape them to the ceiling with like masking tape. So they were taped here as well. And I used, for this scene, 1 heat blanket was not enough. So I had to do 2 of those, and I basically taped 2 of the heat blankets together as well to have this like whole plane of like heat blanketness. And then I shined a bicolor light also from Jiyun. It was the MX 100 light, which had 100 watt. The light shone like here. To create that water refraction effect, you have to make sure that your heat blanket is able to move. And so what I did here is we bellowed it like a hammock, and my friend Dilara and I would like shake it and like blow wind towards it with like either like a hair dryer, or like just move it with your hand to create like this water refraction effect that you would see here on the blanket and on my face and on the background. And last but not least,
I think that's why Riza and I clicked immediately. We fit just like a glove.
Me and Riza had an LA trip, and we really wanted to create a super wholesome video about friendship and putting yourself out there together. At that time, me and Riza were actually in contract with Aputure, so we really wanted to use, or I wanted to use Aputure in this shot particularly. So I mounted my camera with a $50 camera mount here. Not the most stable, would not recommend you doing that on high speed, but I took the risk. So that was where my camera was at, or here I would say, sorry, that would make more sense. And here we put like an Aputure MC to light up our faces in the car, because if not, we wouldn't have any light in the car whatsoever. And the light that came from here was super ugly. And we also put like a diffusion here on the Aputure MC, because you know there's like a magnetic piece on Aputures that you can just like click on. And I put it on warm because I really like the contrast of, again, blue and warm tones, which is, I think, something you would find very often in my videos, because I like it. The whole time we were just saying peas and carrots, and Riza would be like, peas and carrots, and then we'd be like, peas and carrots, and Riza told me that I should say that because it makes you smile. I don't know, maybe it's like a Canadian thing or like an American thing, I don't know, but she told me like, say peas and carrots, just say peas and carrots. I was like, okay, peas and carrots, peas and carrots. So for this video, I did do like a little bit storyboarding, but most of the things that I did was mood boarding, and I do that a lot on Milanote. Almost for every video, I have like a big plan out of like how the video is going to look, what the video is going to be, where the video is going to take place. And the mood board for me is very important because from the mood board, I also get like the framing I want, the lighting I want, and like the feel of the video. For example, the shot where she's hitchhiking, I knew I wanted to go in the direction of like a desert. So we went to Joshua Tree because that's where like a lot of it is just very barren. So from the mood board and the storyboard, we definitely keyed down the times and like the dates and the locations where we wanted to shoot at in LA. Also because we only had like 4.5 days to shoot everything. So it was just 4.5 days of us like planning like, oh, okay, we're going to go there, we're going to go there, we're going to go there to get this shot and this shot and this shot. And those were a few breakdowns of my favorite shots from all of my YouTube videos. Thank you so much for watching. God, that was awkward.